Everyone was at my sister's glitzy engagement bash, except me. My mom said, "You're too full of resentment to handle it." I fired back, "Then you won't care if you're cut from my wedding." A month later, my aunt's photo of my unsent invitation ignited a lawsuit, and my mom's sobs didn't sway me. The moment I saw the words "Get Lost" scratched into my car's hood, I knew this wasn't just another family slight. It was July 4th, the kind of sticky hot Seattle afternoon where the smell of charred hot dogs and cheap beer hangs over every backyard in Redmond. My parents' cul-de-sac was alive, with neighbors, cousins, and the hum of a Bluetooth speaker blasting Springsteen. I'd been psyching myself up all week to announce my promotion to team lead at my tech startup, a big freaking deal for a 26-year-old who'd clawed his way out of a coding boot camp. I stood on the deck, beer in hand, ready to share my win, when my sister Lauren, 24 and glowing like she'd just stepped off a reality show, let out a squeal that could have cracked glass. "I'm engaged," she shouted, flashing a diamond that screamed money. The backyard exploded. Mom gasped like she'd won the lottery, Dad clapped her fiancé Jake on the back, and my cousins swarmed her like she was Beyoncé. My news? Buried faster than a tweet in a trending storm. But it was the vandalism to my Honda Civic, parked just beyond the picket fence, that hit me like a sucker punch. Someone wanted me gone. The question was, who? I'm Nathan Harper, the guy who's always been the quiet one, the one who fades into the wallpaper while everyone else grabs the spotlight. Growing up in Redmond's cookie-cutter suburbs, I learned early to keep my head down. My sister Lauren, 2 years younger, was the family's golden child, loud, charismatic, the kind of person who could make a room laugh just by walking in. Her cheerleading trophies lined the living room. My coding boot camp scholarship got a "That's nice, Nathan," and a pat on the head. Mom, Diane, a realtor with a smile as polished as her listings, called Lauren her sparkler. Dad, Richard, a retired bank manager who spent his days tinkering with model trains, would nod and say, "She's our star." Me, I was the reliable one, the kid who got straight A's, taught himself Python at 15, and landed a job at a Seattle startup where I coded until my eyes bled. But no matter what I did, hackathons, internships, my first big project, Mom and Dad brushed it off. "That's our Nathan," they'd say, like I was a Roomba doing its job. Meanwhile, Lauren could crash her car or flunk a class, and they'd call it her fiery spirit. I swallowed it all, year after year, until the resentment grew roots, deep and gnarled, fueling a fire I didn't know I had until now. That 4th of July barbecue was supposed to be my moment. I'd spent weeks rehearsing my announcement, keeping it short, humble, the way Mom liked it. Team lead at 26 wasn't just a title. It was proof I'd made it. Proof I wasn't just the invisible son. But Lauren had other plans. She'd been dating Jake, a 27-year-old stockbroker with a Tesla and a smirk that said he'd sell you a bridge and make you thank him. I didn't trust him, not since he called me tech support at a cousin's barbecue last summer, like I was some kid fixing printers. Still, I kept quiet. Lauren loved him, and I wasn't about to be the jerk who rains on her parade. But when she stole my moment, waving that ring like it was the Olympic torch, something in me broke. Mom clutched her heart. Dad toasted Jake like he'd just closed a billion-dollar deal, and my cousins crowded around, snapping selfies. I stood there, my beer sweating in my hand, watching my family orbit Lauren like she was the sun. Nobody asked about my promotion, nobody even looked at me. I stayed until the fireworks started, forcing a smile through every "Congrats, Lauren," and "You're going to be such a gorgeous bride." I waited for someone to circle back to my news. Nobody did. By 9 p.m., I was done. I mumbled a goodbye to Aunt Margaret, the only one who ever seemed to get me, and headed to my car. That's when I saw it. "Get Lost," carved into the hood of my Civic, the scratches deep, deliberate, like someone had taken a key and meant every stroke. My heart slammed against my ribs. This wasn't random. Redmond's not that kind of place. This was personal, a message meant for me. I scanned the cul-de-sac, the streetlights casting long shadows, but it was just me, the crickets, and the faint pop of fireworks. I snapped a photo, my hand shaking, and drove back to my Capitol Hill apartment, the words searing into my brain. Was it Jake keeping me out of his perfect little narrative? Lauren protecting her spotlight? Or, God, no, Mom sending a warning to stay in my lane? Back in my shoebox apartment, with its view of a brick wall and a couch that smelled faintly of takeout, I poured a whiskey and stared at the photo on my phone. I wanted to call Mom to demand answers, but I knew how it'd go. She'd laugh it off, say I was overthinking, like she did when Lauren borrowed my laptop in high school and fried it with a spilled latte. "She didn't mean it, Nathan," Mom had said, handing me $50. 0 cents, like that fixed a $1,000 0-cents machine. I didn't call. Instead, I texted Claire, my girlfriend of 18 months. Claire's a pediatric nurse, 25, with a smile that could calm a storm and eyes that see right through my walls. We met when I fixed her laptop's Wi-Fi at a coffee shop. Corny, I know, but it was love at first reboot. She's the one person who doesn't make me feel like I'm competing for air. "Rough night. Can you come over?" I texted. She was there in 15 minutes, still in her scrubs, her hair in a messy ponytail. I showed her the photo of my car. "Holy crap, Nathan," she whispered, her hand on mine. "Who did this?" I didn't know, but her being there, her warmth against the cold knot in my chest, made me want to fight back. The next morning, I woke to an X notification that hit like a freight train. Lauren had posted photos from her engagement party, a swanky rooftop bash at a downtown Seattle venue, all fairy lights and champagne flutes. There she was, radiant in a sequined dress, Jake grinning like he'd invented crypto, Mom and Dad beaming like they'd planned the whole thing. My cousins, my aunts, even Aunt Margaret, who I thought was my ally, were there, toasting and laughing, everyone but me. No invite, no text, not even a "Hey, you busy?" I scrolled through the photos, my throat tightening, my coffee going cold on the counter. I'd been erased, like I was never part of the family at all. Claire found me staring at my phone, her face softening with anger and hurt. "They didn't invite you?" she asked, her voice low like she was afraid of the answer. I shook my head, unable to speak. She hugged me, fierce and steady, and for a moment I let myself break, the resentment I'd buried for years spilling out like a dam bursting. I called Mom that afternoon, my voice calm but edged with steel. She picked up on the second ring all bubbly like she was hosting an open house. "Nathan, honey, what's good?" I didn't waste time. "Why wasn't I invited to Lauren's engagement party?" Silence. Then a sigh, like I'd asked her to solve world hunger. "Oh, Nathan, we didn't think you'd want to come. You're always so distant. We figured you'd make a scene, and Lauren deserved her moment." "Make a scene?" The words hit like a slap. "What scene, Mom?" I asked, my voice low, trembling. "When have I ever caused drama?" She hesitated. Then her tone sharpened. "You know how you are, Nathan. You get all quiet and moody when Lauren shines. We just wanted her night to be perfect." I couldn't breathe. Moody? Me? The guy who'd spent his life stepping aside so Lauren could take center stage? "So you just assumed I'd ruin it?" I said, my voice barely holding. "Nathan, don't be dramatic," she said, like I was a kid throwing a tantrum. "You're blowing this out of proportion." I hung up before I could say what I really felt. Dramatic, that word burned, a match to the gasoline of my anger. I paced my apartment, the photo of my vandalized car still open on my phone. I wasn't dramatic. I was done. Done being the invisible son. Done letting them rewrite my story. That's when I decided they weren't coming to my wedding. Claire and I had talked about marriage before. Late-night whispers about a life where I didn't have to fight to be seen. I hadn't proposed yet, but I'd been planning to. Something quiet, maybe at the pier where we had our first date. But now it was war. They didn't get to erase me and then waltz into my big day like nothing happened. I texted Claire, "I'm proposing tomorrow." "And my family's not invited?" Her reply was instant. "Hell yeah, Nathan, let's do this our way." The next day, I was a mess, jumping at every notification, checking my car for new scratches. Claire kept me grounded, her nurse's calm a lifeline. We planned the proposal for Saturday at Pike Place Market, where we'd shared our first coffee. I'd bought a ring, a simple gold band with a sapphire, her favorite, on a budget that screamed junior engineer. But it was us, real and raw. That night, I couldn't sleep, replaying Mom's words, the vandalism, the ex post. This wasn't just about a party anymore. It was about every birthday I'd spent watching Lauren get the bigger cake, every achievement, my coding awards, my first job, brushed off like lint. Someone was trying to keep me in line, and I was done playing nice. Saturday morning was gray and drizzly, peak Seattle vibes. I met Claire at the market, my nerves buzzing like a bad circuit. She looked like home in her denim jacket and scarf, oblivious to the storm in my head. We wandered past fishmongers and flower stalls, the air sharp with salt and espresso. I'd planned to propose by the waterfront, but in a quiet alley near the gum wall. I couldn't wait. I dropped to one knee, my hands sweaty, my heart pounding. "Claire, you're the only one who's ever seen me," I said, my voice cracking. "Will you marry me?" Her eyes filled with tears, and she nodded, pulling me into a hug that felt like salvation. The ring slid onto her finger, and for a second the world was perfect. Then my phone buzzed. I ignored it, but it buzzed again, relentless. I glanced at the screen, a text from an unknown number. "You're playing with fire." Attached was a photo of us, taken minutes ago, Claire's ring glinting in the frame. Someone was watching. I froze, scanning the crowd. Tourists, vendors, a guy in a hoodie lingering by a coffee stand. Nobody stood out, but my skin crawled. Claire saw my face. "Nathan, what's wrong?" she whispered. I showed her the text, and her hand gripped mine, her nurse's calm faltering. "This is serious," she said, her voice low. "We need to go to the police." But what could I say? Someone scratched my car and sent a creepy text? It sounded paranoid, even to me. But the fear was real, a cold fist in my gut. I pulled Claire close, and we left the market, my eyes darting to every shadow. Back at my apartment, I locked the door, checked the windows, my heart still racing. Claire sat on the couch, her face pale but fierce. "We're not letting this stop us," she said. "We're getting married, Nathan. They don't get to win." I nodded, but the text echoed in my head. "You're playing with fire." Was it Jake, protecting his image? Lauren, guarding her throne? Or Mom, pulling strings like always? Then came the next blow. Monday morning, I got an anonymous email. No sender, just a burner address. "Back off, or these go public." Attached was a grainy photo. Me at a college party, 19, drunk and sprawled on a couch. Not illegal, but embarrassing enough to tank my reputation at work, where my new boss was already looking for reasons to cut me. My startup was cutthroat, and I was one mistake away from losing my shot at equity. I forwarded the email to Claire, who called me, her voice shaking. "This is blackmail, Nathan," she said. "We need to figure out who's doing this." But I didn't know where to start. All I knew was that my family's fingerprints were all over it. Mom's need to control, Lauren's need to shine, Jake's need to win. I reported the car vandalism to the police, but they shrugged it off as kids. I wasn't buying it. Someone was trying to break me, and I was ready to fight back. That night I lay awake, Claire asleep beside me, her breathing steady while my mind churned. The engagement party, Mom's words, the vandalism, the email, the stalker photo. It was all connected, a web spun to keep me small. I thought about every time I'd let them win. The birthdays where Lauren got the bigger gift, the family dinners where my stories were drowned out by her drama, the way Mom would post about Lauren's cheerleading but forget my coding wins. I was done being their punching bag. I opened my laptop, started a list. Diane, Richard, Lauren. They weren't getting invites to my wedding. They'd feel what it was like to be left out, to be nothing. But as I typed, another X notification popped up. Lauren had posted, "Some people can't handle someone else's happiness." It had 300 likes, comments flooding in, half calling me a loser, half saying I was right to cut ties. The family group chat exploded, cousins picking sides, aunts chiming in, then Mom's reply, "My son's breaking my heart, but I still love him." It was public, viral, a knife in my back. I stared at the screen, my pulse pounding. This wasn't just a family feud anymore. It was a public crucifixion, with Mom playing the martyr and me cast as the villain. Seattle was watching. Co-workers, neighbors, even my old high school buddies, all taking sides in a drama I never signed up for. Team Nathan versus Team Diane, trending like a reality show. I wanted to scream, to post every detail of their neglect, the vandalism, the threats. But I didn't. I closed my laptop, looked at Claire's sleeping face, and made a vow. This wedding would be my revenge. They'd excluded me, but I'd exclude them, and I'd make it hurt. But as I drifted to sleep, one thought gnawed at me. Who was behind that photo? And what else were they planning? Because this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The rain hammered Mel's diner like it was trying to wash away the whole damn town. Each drop a reminder of why I'd sworn never to let Redmond's suburban grip pull me back. I sat in a corner booth, the vinyl sticking to my jeans, the air thick with grease and the ghosts of 1,000 small-town arguments. My dad's text had come like a bolt from the blue. Mel's, noon, we talk. Richard Harper, once a bank manager, now a guy who'd rather build model trains than face his son's pain, wasn't one for showdowns unless Mom had him on a leash. My hand still trembled from the memory of "Get Lost" carved into my car's hood, the anonymous email threatening to leak old college photos, and that chilling text at Pike Place Market, a photo of Claire and me, snapped by some creep close enough to hear my proposal. I gripped my coffee mug, the ceramic warm against my palms, my mind racing. Was it Jake, Lauren's slick stockbroker fiancé, flexing his Wall Street muscle? Or Mom Deanne orchestrating another one of her realtor-staged dramas? The bell above the door jangled, and Dad walked in, his mariner's cap dripping, his jaw tight like he was marching into a deposition. I straightened, my heart pounding. This wasn't just about Lauren's engagement party anymore. This was about a lifetime of being erased, and I was ready to make them pay. Dad slid into the booth, his eyes dodging mine like I was a bill collector. "Nathan," he started, his voice low, like he was afraid the old-timers at the counter might eavesdrop. "This wedding thing, you're ripping us apart." I nearly laughed, the sound bitter in my throat. "Ripping you apart? You didn't invite me to Lauren's engagement party, Dad. You let Mom tell everyone I'd wreck it just by showing up." His face twitched, a flicker of guilt, but he pressed on. "We thought you wouldn't care. You're always so self-sufficient." Self-sufficient? A fancy way of saying they never bothered to check if I was bleeding. I leaned forward, my voice steady but sharp as a blade. "You ignored my high school coding award because Lauren had a dance recital the same night. You skipped my boot camp graduation because she threw a fit over a bad grade. And now you're shocked I'm done being your invisible son?" Dad's hand shredded a napkin, his eyes fixed on the table. "We didn't mean to hurt you," he mumbled, his voice barely audible over the rain. "Didn't mean to doesn't cut it," I snapped louder than I meant. The waitress glanced over, but I didn't care. "You assumed I was fine, but you never asked. Not once." He looked up, his face older than I remembered, lines etched deep from years of avoiding hard truths. "Can we come to the wedding?" he asked, his voice cracking, almost desperate. I wanted to say yes, to believe he meant it, but the memory of Mom's voice, calling me jealous, dramatic, burned too hot. And then there was the car, the email, the photo. Someone was trying to break me, and Dad sitting here acting like it was all a misunderstanding felt like a setup. I took a slow breath, my voice low, final. "You need to feel what it's like to be left out," I said. "You don't get to erase me and then show up to my big day like nothing happened." He didn't argue, just nodded once, his shoulders slumping as he walked out into the rain. I watched him go, the diner's neon sign flickering in the window, my chest tight with a mix of vindication and loss. This was only the beginning. That evening, I went for a jog to shake off the anger, my sneakers slapping the wet pavement of Capitol Hill. The Seattle drizzle had turned into a full-on storm, the streets slick and empty under the streetlights. I was halfway through my loop when headlights flared behind me, too close, too fast. I spun just as a black SUV roared past, clipping the curb where I'd been standing seconds ago. My heart slammed against my ribs, my breath ragged as the car sped off, taillights vanishing into the night. I stood frozen, rain soaking my hoodie, my mind screaming. Was that an accident? Or was someone, Jake, Mom, Lauren, escalating their game? I jogged home, checking over my shoulder every few steps, the words, "You're playing with fire," from that anonymous text looping in my head. When I told Claire, she was on my doorstep in minutes, her nurse's scrubs damp from the rain, her face pale but fierce. "Nathan, this is getting dangerous," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "We need to document everything." I nodded, but the fear was a cold weight, sinking deeper with every passing day. The next morning, Lauren showed up at my apartment, unannounced, looking like she'd walked out of a Nordstrom ad. Perfect curls, designer jacket. But her eyes were different. Red-rimmed, raw, like the kid I remembered before she became Mom's sparkler. I let her in, my arms crossed, waiting. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice soft, almost broken. I leaned against the counter, silent, letting her squirm. She took a breath, like she was stepping off a cliff. "I didn't know Mom didn't invite you to my engagement party, Nathan, I swear." I snorted, the sound harsh. "You didn't notice I wasn't there? At a rooftop bash with the whole family?" Her jaw tightened, but she held my gaze. "I thought you were busy, or doing your usual thing, staying above it all." That hit like a punch. "My usual thing," I said, my voice low. "Dangerous? You mean letting you steal every moment of my life? Like when you hijacked my college scholarship announcement at Thanksgiving, or when you forgot to tell me about family trips because I wasn't fun enough." Lauren flinched, her hands twisting together. "I didn't mean to make everything about me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mom and Dad, they pushed me to be the star. I got used to it." I stared at her, the resentment in my chest shifting, not softening, but moving. "That doesn't make it right," I said. "You let them treat me like I was nothing, and you never pushed back." Silence settled, heavy, broken only by the hum of my fridge. Then she looked up, tears brimming. "Why didn't you tell me about your wedding? Just me?" There was no smugness in her voice, just hurt, and for a second I saw the sister I used to share secrets with, before she learned to crave the spotlight. "I wanted one thing that wasn't about you," I said, my voice quiet, raw. "One moment where I wasn't fighting for scraps." She nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. "Can I come? Just me. No Mom, no Dad. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to be there." I didn't answer. Not yet. Because just as I opened my mouth, my phone buzzed. An X notification that stopped me cold. It was Mom's post, public, trending across Seattle. "When your son turns his back on his family, you wonder where you went wrong. We loved him, raised him, and now he's chosen to erase us." My blood ran cold. She'd turned our fight into a public spectacle, painting herself as the grieving mother and me as the villain. The comments were a war zone, half calling me a selfish jerk, half saying I was right to cut ties. Co-workers, neighbors, even my old high school coach were weighing in, picking sides in a drama I never wanted. I showed Lauren the post, my hands shaking. Her eyes widened, her face paling. "She promised she'd stay out of it," she muttered, her voice thick with anger. "She said she'd let me fix this." I didn't say anything because she was right. This wasn't about me anymore. It was about Mom controlling the narrative like she always had. Lauren sank onto my couch, her face in her hands. "She's not upset about missing your wedding," she said, her voice muffled. "She's upset she can't post about it, can't play the perfect mom." I nodded, the truth bitter but clear. "What do you want to do?" she asked, looking up, her eyes searching mine. I didn't know yet, but an idea was forming. A plan to hit back harder than they'd ever expect. The next day, I got a call from my boss, Sarah, her voice tight as a wire. "Nathan, we need to talk. Someone emailed me claiming you're unstable, that your family drama's a risk to the team." My stomach dropped. "Who sent it?" I asked, already knowing. "Anonymous," she said, but her tone screamed skepticism. "Sort this out, Nathan. I can't have chaos in my startup." I hung up, my hands shaking with rage. Mom. It had to be her, striking at my career, the one thing I'd built without her. I told Claire, who was pacing our living room, her nurse's pragmatism kicking in. "This is war," she said, her eyes blazing. "We document everything, car, email, this. They're trying to ruin you." I nodded, but the fear was suffocating. My job was my lifeline, my proof I wasn't nothing. If Mom took that, I'd lose everything. Then came the bombshell. A week later, I got served papers at my apartment. A defamation lawsuit from Mom, claiming my group chat message, "You erased me," for years, had tanked her realtor business. The suit splashed across Seattle's local news, demanded $50,000, 0 cents in damages, enough to wipe out my savings and jeopardize my job. I stood in my kitchen, the papers trembling in my hands, Claire reading over my shoulder. "She's trying to break you," she whispered, her voice fierce. "But we're fighting back." I nodded, the anger in my chest turning cold, calculated. Mom wanted a war? I'd give her one. I started digging through old emails, finding ones where she'd bragged about Lauren's cheerleading but ignored my coding wins. I sent them anonymously to a local gossip blog, the Seattle Scoop, hinting at her favoritism. It was a small strike, but it felt good, like the first shot in a battle I was finally ready to fight. I decided to let Lauren, Aunt Margaret, and Cousin Emily come to the wedding. Not out of forgiveness, but strategy. They'd see me take back my life, and Mom would hear about it secondhand. I texted Lauren, "You, Margaret, Emily, that's it. Don't expect a hug." Her reply was quick, "Thank you, Nathan. I'll prove I'm sorry." I didn't buy it, but I'd use her presence to twist the knife. Claire and I threw ourselves into planning, booking a vineyard in Oregon's Willamette Valley, a place that felt like us, quiet, defiant, beautiful. Claire's Tacoma family jumped in, offering flowers, playlists, even a cousin who baked our cake. It was the kind of love I'd never gotten from my own kin, and it fueled my resolve to make this wedding a middle finger to my family's neglect. But the threats kept coming. 2 days before the wedding, my work account was hacked, leaking proprietary code to a rival startup. My boss called, her voice ice cold. "You're on thin ice, Nathan. Fix this, or you're out." I spent hours tracing the hack, my gut telling me Jake, with his tech finance connections, was behind it. The investigation loomed over me, a guillotine ready to drop. Claire stayed up with me, her laptop open, helping me document every threat, the car, the email, the near hit, the lawsuit. "We're building a case," she said, her voice steady. "They don't get to win." But the question gnawed at me, who was pulling the strings? Mom with her lawsuit? Jake with his hack? Or Lauren, playing the remorseful sister to get close? The wedding day arrived, a crisp October night under the starlit vines of the vineyard. Claire's family filled the rows, their laughter warm, real. Aunt Margaret arrived first, her eyes misty as she hugged me. "You're stronger than they know," she whispered. Emily gave me a grin, her Team Nathan vibe clear. Lauren showed up in a plain gray dress, no makeup, no spotlight. She hugged Claire, then sat quietly, her eyes on us, not the crowd. For the first time, I saw something in her. Guilt, maybe pride, I couldn't tell. The ceremony was everything. Claire walking down the aisle, her dress glowing in the sunset. Our vows raw and true, sealed with a kiss that drowned out the world. Our friends cheered, and for a moment, I was free. My revenge, a quiet triumph. Then came the twist. A waiter approached during the reception, holding an envelope. "Left at the gate," he said, his voice uneasy, urgent. My hands shook as I opened it. Mom's handwriting. "Nathan, I saw the photos. I kept your coding awards, your letters, in storage because I couldn't let you go. I was wrong, blind, caught up in Lauren. I'm proud of you. Please, let me try again." I stood there, the paper trembling, Claire's hand on my arm. "What do you want to do?" she asked, her voice soft. I didn't know. The note cracked something in me, but it didn't erase the lawsuit, the threats, the years of being nothing. I folded it away, focusing on Claire, on the music, on us. But the drama wasn't done. A reporter, some ex-influencer with a live streaming app, crashed the reception, her phone aimed at me like a gun. "Nathan Harper, is this your revenge wedding?" she shouted, her voice cutting through the band. Guests froze, the dance floor stilled. I stepped forward, my voice shaking but clear. "This isn't revenge," I said. "This is me taking back my life. They erased me, but I'm done being invisible." The crowd erupted in cheers, Claire's hand squeezing mine, and the reporter was escorted out. Her live feed went viral, shifting some X comments to "Team Nathan," He's standing up for himself, but others called me vindictive, keeping the debate alive. Post-honeymoon, back in our Capitol Hill apartment, Mom showed up, no warning, no makeup, just jeans and a cardigan, her eyes red. She held out a wooden box, her hands trembling. "I found this in storage," she said, her voice breaking. I opened it. My old coding trophies? A letter I wrote to Dad at 8. All the things I thought they'd thrown away. "She thought I couldn't let you go," she whispered, tears falling. I took the box, my throat tight, but I didn't invite her in. "This doesn't fix it," I said, my voice steady. "I know," she said, and left. A week later, the final blow landed. I'd leaked an audio to the Seattle Scoop. Mom, at a family dinner years ago, saying, "Lauren's our star, Nathan doesn't need us." It hit X like a bomb, vindicating me. Team Nathan roared, "He was right!" Team Diane cried manipulation, but the truth was out. I listened to it alone, my heart pounding, the stone in my chest finally crumbling. Claire found me, her arms around me, her voice fierce. "You did it, Nathan, you're free." And I was. My revenge was complete, not just in excluding them, but in exposing their lies. Seattle could argue, pick sides, tear itself apart. I had Claire, our life, our future. I wasn't the invisible son anymore. I was Nathan Harper, and I'd won.